Okay, so because MR and AR are different, guess what? We now end up with a different diagram. But the good news is that we're going to use this diagram for monopoly, for oligopoly, and for the one we're looking at the moment, monopolistic competition. Yeah, so this is kind of the last major change that we're going to make to this diagram. And I accept that up to this point, there have been a very large number of little lines all starting to appear. So remember, all these diagrams. So this is diagrams in monopolistic competition, but it's always a two-step process. And we did this for perfect competition, and it remains true here. Step one is the output step. What we're doing is we're determining the profit maximizing output. That occurs where MC equals MR. We know that's true because we want to produce all the units for which MR is greater than MC, and we want to produce no units for which MC is greater than MR. Those would reduce profits, those would add to it. Once we've done that, we then, step two is the profit step. It's true on all these theory of the firm diagrams, they're all the same, which is at the profit maximizing output, whatever we've got out of this, which we'll say is, let's suppose it's Q star, at the profit maximizing output, and only at the profit maximizing output, so at Q star, we now say, what is average revenue, price or whatever, and what is average cost? Then if average revenue is more than average cost, we've made a profit. If average cost is more than average revenue, we've made a loss. And if they're equal, then if average revenue equals average cost, then we've made normal profit. And all these diagrams, they always work in the same way. It's just that two-step process. Or 2.5 steps here because we've got to find average revenue, average cost. So let's have a look at what that might look like on the diagram. So unlike perfect competition, we now have 4 lines. We're going to use average cost and marginal cost that are just the same as before. But we're now going to have average revenue looks like that. Marginal revenue that cuts halfway through, roughly speaking. Let's suppose we've got a profitable firm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow average cost to be below average revenue. And there's MC goes like that. So that looks like a lot of lines, but all we're going to do is going to adopt our two-step process. So step one, we're simply going to find the output at which MC equals MR. You could call this, if you like, the marginal step, because this is the only point at which we're really very interested in the diagram in marginals. So we find MR is there, MC is here. That's the output at which MC equals MR. But I'm not interested in this number here, because that's just that's the marginal cost and marginal revenue for the 100th units. So what? I'm interested in the other 99 as well. The reason that's the profit maximizing output then is for all these units, MR here is greater than MC. So that's step one. Step two, we simply say, okay, great, did we make a profit? So we now say, where is average revenue and where is average cost? So, and we're only interested in, I suppose I should call that Q star, at Q star. I'm not interested in the minimum point of the average cost curve. I'm simply interested in saying, if I make 100 units, my average revenue is, say, 10 quid, making total revenue £1,000, 10 times 100. My average cost's not there, because I'm not making that number of units. My average cost is, say, £7. Therefore, my profit is 100 times 3, £300. That's my abnormal profit. So that, all the diagrams we always do, they all work the same way. So as long as you can get MC through the minimum point of AC and MR twice as steep as AR, then you're always going to get this diagram right. So Where sometimes difficulties come is where people say, well, how am I going to make sure that my firm is doing what I want it to? Maybe I want it to make a profit, maybe I want to make it a loss, and so on. A good way of getting around that problem is leave off average cost to start with. So suppose we do this. There's AR, which is also demand, same thing. Yeah, that was a bad one. There's MR, twice as steep as AR, and let's just put for the minute MC on. Yeah, initially diminishing returns, then increasing returns to the variable factor. Yeah, there's my profit maximizing output. So that's my first step one. We find MC equals MR. And then I'm going to do the first step of step two, so first part of step two, and say my price is £10. So I found that from average revenue. Well, all I've done is, suppose I want to make, all I now decide is, do I want to make a profit, do I want to make a loss, or do I want to make normal profit? Suppose I want the firm to make a loss, then I would put average cost up there. Still make its minimum point there. What I'd now discover, is that at Q1 my price is £10, but oh no, my average cost is £13. So in this case, the firm will be making a loss. Suppose that I'm going to risk the green pen of doom here, which put ink all over my hand a minute ago. Suppose I want to just make normal profit, then all I do is at the profit maximizing output there, I just make average cost equal to average revenue, like that. That's probably looking like a lot of lines, so let's get rid of the red ones. Yeah. So that was the loss. Let's get rid of the red ones. Yeah. So now I'm just making at the profit maximizing output. I'm just making normal profit. There, my average cost equals my average revenue. And finally, obviously, I could do what I just showed you a minute ago, which is say I want the firm to make a profit, in which case let's make average cost drop below average revenue. Now it's a diagram we drew before where at Q1 costs are now down at say £6, and now the firm's making abnormal profit. So the point is that if you're kind of saying I need later to decide on my profit, then if we do MR equals MC, find Q star. Then 2, we find AR at Q star. Then you can decide 3, where do you want average cost to go? If you want to make a profit, you put average cost below average revenue. If you want to make a loss, average cost goes above average revenue. If you just want normal profit, then you make them equal at the profit maximizing output. And we'll show that in a bit more detail again in a minute.